in race headquarters in Alicante. We've got a very full show for you today. We're going to be hearing from Charles Cordrelier, leading the race at the moment with Dongfeng Race Team. And we're going to be talking to Turn the Tide on Plastic and Bianca Cook on board, as well as getting insights as to what's happening with the fleet and how they're setting themselves up strategically with Team SCA's navigator from the last edition, Libby Greenhouse. But let's jump straight into the heart of the action and take a look at how the fleet are setting up. It's day 3 on leg 3 down into the Southern Ocean. 2 groups, 3 to the north, 4 to the south. And the first question mark has been when to jibe and how to set yourself up for the low system that's chasing the boats. Sun Hunkai Scallywag had a little bit of a trouble early on. They got stuck underneath a blanket of cloud, but they're now safely underway back into the breeze as all the boats are heading east towards the finish. And just look at the separation. Turn the Tide on Plastic, 213 nautical miles to the north. Dongfeng Race Team to the south and leading at the moment. Why such a big split? Well, this is the breeze that is chasing the boats down. As we go into the future, Mafre and Dongfeng are going to be pushed forward by ferocious breeze. The next few days here are going to be unbelievably intense. Well, how to get yourself set up for this incoming weather bomb? Well, Bianca Cook on Turn the Tide on Plastic talked us through how they were getting prepared.
So we're basically getting everything organised. We've got our reef lines on the right side, ready to reef. It's pretty important that we reef before the breeze hits because it's going to be pretty hard to get it in 35, 40, 45 knots. We've got all of our stack back ready to go. And next thing will be peeling to the right sail at the right time.
Your strategy seems to be go north, stay out of the breeze. How did that decision come about?
Well, the reason why we've decided to go north is because the pressure system's coming through. And we didn't want to get stuck in the middle of it with 45 to 55 knots. So we've tried to come north, and it gives us the opportunity to get away from it if we need to. The main priority, obviously, is to keep the boat in one piece. Especially with such a short stop in Melbourne and then having to get the boat all the way to Hong Kong. So, you know, our priority obviously is to sail fast, but we don't want to break anything and we don't want to break ourselves.
Maybe a chance for you to push hard while other teams have to take it a bit easier.
Oh, absolutely. We're not trying to pull ourselves out of the race at all by taking a different route. We're definitely going to be pushing hard, and it gives us an opportunity, you know, to split from the rest of the pack and push forward as fast as we can.
When that call was made to take it a little bit easier, what was the mood like on board, or for you yourself?
To be honest, the mood was pretty relaxed. We have absolute faith in our navigator, Nico. And I guess the one positive of going a little bit further north is that it's not going to get as cold. The water is pretty warm. The water's still at about 15 degrees, so the rain is actually colder than the water. So it's pretty ideal at the moment, but yeah, I mean, I guess we're well prepared clothing-wise, but we might not have to use it all, so that's positive. We have Lucas, who's on the main sheet. We've got Martin grinding on the main at the moment, and Elodie on the helm at the moment. We wouldn't be here if we weren't happy to be here. Leaving Cape Town was pretty rough, and I think we've got more of that to come. And I think, you know, once the pressure system comes through, it's really going to feel like we're seeing some big seas and really a big baptism of fire. You're absolutely right. And Christmas Day, you know, everyone loves to be with their family on Christmas, but all of our families support us, and we wouldn't be able to be here without the support of our families. So this is it, man. This is the Southern Ocean, and I don't know if it's going to be quite like what we're going to see in the next Southern Ocean, but at least it's a little bit of a sea into it.
There's a little bit of a treat here for your families that will be watching you now. If everybody up on deck, they want to give a little bit of a wave to all the fans at home, please do so now. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Turn the Tide on Plastic to the north. A very different approach to Dongfeng Race Team in the south that are charging ahead, trying to sail incredibly short distance. But the risk is, what's the breeze going to be like? Well, we spoke to skipper Charles Cordrelier.
Yeah, I'm just sitting behind the wheel because it's very windy, and so you can see Kevin driving and Marie who's driving? No, Fabien is driving, so Kevin is on watch with Stu and Marie, and I am on also, and we are waiting for the wind. a very, very strong wind. The wind is going to increase very quickly. The next freeze I think are going to be maybe the worst difficult of the race. I hope, because it's going to be very difficult. Watching the last schedule, I think we probably are too soft, unfortunately, and that's not good. But wait and see.
Give us a sense of what it's going to be like.
It's going to be 40 to 40 knots, maybe 45 to 50 the gust. I hope not as much, but not downwind. That's the bad news. It will be at an angle between 90 and 80, which is probably one of the toughest angle to sail in strong wind. I hope the sea state will not be too bad, because we are out of the strong wind. But yes, and it's going to get a bit colder going south. It's going to be very, very hard. I think the first plan is safety for sure, and safety for the people first, and safety for the boat. We are not going to race in the next hours, I think. We are going to try to go fast, of course, but first not to break anything, and not to break anybody. That's the goal of the next hours. I stop the ballast. Ballast is full. Guys? Ballast. So I think we are going to do sailing like in short, driving a lot along the ice limit, which is not easy for us. But yeah, as I told you, I think it's going to be very tough, probably driving every 1 or 2 hours and in 30 knots. That's not easy, and especially in this part of the world. I told you I'm not going to race, but I'm more concerned about the results than what's going to happen. I know it will be tough for the next few hours, but we will go through it, I think, properly, and we are already prepared for that. We anticipate a lot of things. We already think about every sail we are going to put, every maneuver we are going to put, try to do something very simple, and we'll see. But yes, my first worry now is, of course, not to break anything, but also hoping that we didn't, our position is not too bad for the next few hours.
Charles Cordrelier leading the race at the moment, having to face a difficult decision, balancing safety and performance while he tries to hang on to that slim lead over the Spanish boat Mafre. How's it all going to play out? Well, let's hear from Libby Greenhouse. She was the navigator on board Team SEA in the last edition. They were victorious in the offshore leg from Lisbon to Lorient, and she talked us through how important this key moment is and just how this weather is going to strike.
Yeah, I mean, I think this leg's really interesting. Obviously, everyone's been thinking big Southern Ocean, big low pressures, and what's happening now is we've got a secondary low developing behind the fleet, and they've all sort of started to look at their positioning. And actually, right now, almost that southerly group is suffering a little bit with some lighter winds in comparison to turn the tide further north, which are taking more of a northerly route.
And which one of those boats do you think looks pretty hot right now? If you could put yourself onto any one of the teams, Turn the Tide on Plastic all the way north, Dongfeng Race Team in the south, where would your money be on?
This is going to sound like I'm hedging my bets, but I actually quite like the look of where Vestas are, which is a bit more in the middle. They've, I think, positional-wise, it still puts them. They don't lose too much of the shift, which potentially is what's going to happen for Turn the Tide, but also they're not putting themselves right in the heart of the storm and potentially being really strong breeze where the teams might be trying to slow down, or the angle that they'll be at will be quite tight, so they won't be at the fastest angle. I mean, the benefit of Turn the Tide and Vestas is potentially they'll be able to just put their bows down and close that gauge and use it as speed forwards.
Well, you talk about putting the bow down. There's been some discussion here in the office about how it is that you can bail out from this weather if you need to, but south isn't really an option for those boats at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where they're most at risk. I'm sure you've seen probably from the race experts, but also been running some routes. And when I ran some routes at the beginning and talked about it, it was all about going to be squeezing along that ice zone. And particularly for this, I've quite surprised that there's such a collection of the group that have chosen to go and set themselves up as far south, because there is no escape out to the south. You're going to have to come up onto the wind if you're like, we need to get out of here. So that's why I think Vestas, Turn the Tide and potentially Scallywag have got slightly better positioning from the situation of, who knows what might happen.
And it almost seems like it's going to be too much wind is going to be a bad thing. You know, you can push so much harder if you're in 25 knots of breeze than you can if you're in 40.
Yeah, I mean, there is that. But if we look back to the Southern Ocean leg around Cape Horn last time, the teams were all A3s up in 30 to 35 knots, jibing down the ice zone. And we're going around with J1s up around the bottom of Cape Horn. I mean, I think what you'll see here is probably also the experienced guys will be pushing themselves. I'm sure there'll be some sail damage without a doubt once this system's gone through, whereas actually Turn the Tide in a way of being a bit more sensible, and they've reduced those risks and potentially won't make much of a loss or have the opportunity to make a gain. I mean, when I ran the routes originally, I think there was something like a 5-minute difference between doing a northerly and a southerly route. So that's not even a sail change.
OK, well, final question then. No excuses, don't hedge your bets. Who's your money on for this leg?
I think Dongfeng's I'm gonna have to put my money on for them. They've made a few mistakes the last couple of legs, but essentially they're probably the quickest boat out there in the fleet.
All right, Libby, well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. We'll catch up later.
No problem, cheers.
That's all we've got today, but the next 24 hours are going to see some unbelievable conditions batter the fleet. Stay with us here at Volvo Ocean Race headquarters. We're going to have the quick fix for you in the morning and then a more in-depth look at 1300 UTC. Stay glued to the tracker. There is plenty of racing to come.